Hey everybody, this is not a long live stream at all, but it has to do with Derek Chauvin, the Minnesota Park police officer who put his knee on the neck of George Floyd for the world to see. And I'm reminded of a video interview that I'd made with David D some years ago, interviewing, and we were at the Fruitvale BART station, and we were waiting for a press conference that was supposed to begin there, featuring then Oakland Mayor Ron Dellums, the late Ron Dellums. And in his monologue, David D said that he was outraged. He said that he had nightmares and he couldn't sleep because of what he saw, which was Johannes Meserly shoot Oscar Grant as he lay on the ground. This is on video at the Fruitvale BART station on New Year's Eve night of 2009. And he said he was still haunted by it. Well, what Minnesota police officer Derek Chauvin did is 10 times worse. It wasn't a quick action, it was slow and deliberate, and it was in our collective faces. And it wasn't a movie. He wasn't doing this to a stuntman. He wasn't taking action against somebody who really was an actor in a play with him as the villain. No, this was real life. And what was it over? Was it over a clear example of violence against a police officer? No, but even then it wouldn't have been justified. Was it over? What was it over? It was over an alleged, but not proven, an alleged passing of a counterfeit bill. And at that, a $10 bill. A $10 bill. I repeat, a $10 bill. One more time. A $10 bill. Once more with feeling. A $10 bill. You gotta be kidding me. I mean, it's one thing for the store owner to call the police on George Floyd for what they claim is a counterfeit $10 bill. That it wasn't even proven if he made it or anything. That part of this whole issue has been left undone. And it was left undone because of what Derek did, the officer. I mean, and if he had just let him go, as in fact, my friend Lee Steinberg pointed this out on Facebook in a great post, a short one, but a great one. He said, you know, maybe the fellow gets a misdemeanor and he gets probation or something like that. So for those of you who want to say the punishment fit the crime, it didn't. Okay? You wouldn't even know what the crime is, or you're just saying that. This is an ugly situation, to say the least. And it should lead to police reform in America, because this happens where there aren't cameras available. And we've had now videos surface that have shown open racism toward black men on the part of law enforcement. The case in Georgia, 3 hours away from here, the man who did it was a former law enforcement official who still had contacts with people in law enforcement, including lawyers, district attorneys. Why? Why? Which leads to, I think, an adjunctly related problem, one of self-esteem. The people who take these jobs seem to be acting out some feeling of inadequacy under the color of law. Because only under the color of law, okay, only under the color of law does a person act like that, do something that they would not even be able to do in actual society. What Derek did was just describes that, okay? And in Derek Chauvin, if you type Derek Chauvin racist in Google, you get a number of examples where he was violent toward alleged wrongdoers who were black. So this is not the first time. I mean, he's gotten practice, if you will. And he's been on the force for 19 years, which means that his dirty deeds have gone unnoticed for almost 2 decades. Now, we have to stop hiring police officers off the street. Not everybody should be able to be a cop. Police officers should go through special psychiatric training, okay? And they should not only go through psychiatric training, but go through race training. They have to be, if you will, designed psychologically to be super people. That has to happen. Because taxpayer dollars deserve better. Taxpayer dollars deserve better. And yeah, of course, Derek Chauvin should be jailed for the murder of George Floyd. That goes without question. That goes without question. So I'm not one who favors the penalty. That's me, okay? But that's me, all right? So that should be the next step. And there shouldn't be any discussion of, well, you know, there was corroborating evidence. There wasn't. Let's get cameras all around. You reach a point of visual overload, and I believe we've had it, where people can see this from enough different angles to realize that Officer Chauvin was more than wrong. He was criminally wrong. He was violently wrong. He was racially wrong. He was wrong in all kinds of ways. All right? But equally wrong is a system that allows him to behave that way. Police should not be established so that someone white thinks it's okay to use law enforcement as some sort of instrument of race attack, because that's what's happened. Amy Cooper tried to do it. We saw how she openly lied on her phone, captured on video, about Christian Cooper, a not only black man, but until recently we got a really even cooler job, a Marvel Comics editor. Hey, which means he was at Comic-Con. And I have to go back and check my video and say, wait a minute, was that dude at Comic-Con? Okay, right? One of us. Don't touch one of us, man. Sorry about that. Okay? Just don't. Okay? Don't touch, don't do it. Don't do it. My point is, not only did she try to call the police against an African-American man, but a brother who turns out to be a nerd who knows how to use technology to protect himself. who knows the ins and out of tech to be able to say, hey, I'm going to video you. I know I'm out in space. There's nothing you can do about it. And yeah, you can call the police and tell them anything you want to because I have the truth on video and it's going to get out real fast. And that's exactly what happened. That's called using your head. Note, he said nothing, no profanity. He didn't call her a name. He was very polite from start to finish. And yet she felt it was okay to use law enforcement against him simply because he asked her to leash her dog. That's crazy. All right? Absolutely crazy. So I said I was going to make this a short one. I did. But I had to say it. You got to get rid of the bad cops. And I say that because there are a number of police officers who don't want to be attached to that kind of behavior. Most notably, if you were wondering, in particular, who has risen their hand to say that that's not us, I received an email from a public relations organization that was representing an organization named the Ethical Society of Police. The Ethical Society of Police. They're disgusted and angry over the murder of George Floyd by the Minneapolis Police Department. And that's exactly how they put it. That wasn't me adding those words. Those were their words. They're based in St. Louis. It's on Oakland News now. What did it say? It said, and I quote, with no editing, the Ethical Society of Police is absolutely disgusted and angry over the senseless murder of Mr. George Floyd at the hands of the Minneapolis Police Department. These are their words. We believe the decision to fire officers Derek Chauvin, Total, Thomas Lane, and J. Alexander Kung for the murder of Mr. Floyd was justified. Mr. Floyd repeatedly said, "I can't breathe," as Officer Chauvin callously dug his knee into his neck. Officer Chauvin had no concern for the well-being of Mr. Floyd, even as he called out for his mother and repeatedly pled for air. Officers Tao, Thomas Lane, and J. Alexander Klung didn't kneel on the neck of Mr. Floyd, but they were equally as complicit, okay? Equally as complicit and cowardly with their inactions and indifference to his life. It is also important to note the behavior of the first medic upon his arrival to the scene. There was no sense of urgency with Mr. Floyd's life. This medic should be fired as well. Medics take an oath to render aid to those in need without delay. This medic failed Mr. Floyd. Unfortunately, this is one of the many instances where a black life didn't matter to law enforcement. Mr. Floyd's life should have been treated similarly to how law enforcement around the country has treated militia armed with assault weapons who stormed, shut down, and initiated mock hangings at Capitol buildings. In conclusion, the Ethical Society of Police is calling for the immediate termination of the medic that arrived at the scene and saw no urgency to render aid to Mr. Floyd, and for murder charges to be filed against all officers involved in the murder of Mr. Floyd. Respectfully, the Ethical Society of Police. The Ethical Society of Police says that it is an association of police officers, park